In this video, I'm going to be talking about my current social media content creation rig. Here's the story. The camera is the A7RV. The lens is the Sony 24-70mm f2.8 GM version 2 lens. The audio is the Sony dual channel receiver, and that pairs nicely with the Sony wireless hand microphone. Recently, I've been doing some social media content for my local church, and we've been experimenting a bit with Reels. I film everything in 4K, 25p or 50p, and I shoot everything horizontal as well. I don't shoot things vertical because I've found that in the past when I have shot things vertically, I've then wanted to use some of that footage for traditional YouTube type style videos, and YouTube is typically a horizontal video medium, and I can't end up using those shots that I did vertically. So I've learned from my mistakes from the past, and I shoot everything in 4K and horizontally, and then the final videos that I end up exporting end up being 1080p, and then I can use that 4K image that I've originally shot, crop it, and then be able to use it for both Reels and the 1080p videos that I'm uploading to YouTube. It just saves me having to shoot things twice, it simplifies my workflow, and I don't have a problem with the quality that I end up being able to produce. Using the focal range of 24 to 70mm is great as well. I find that being able to shoot wide at 24 allows me to be able to shoot people talking to camera and then be able to crop in for the Reels and then be able to use the clips for both Reels and normal YouTube videos. And then when I want to get B-roll, I can then punch into 70mm and get different types of shots, not shooting everything looking wide all the time. So having that variable focal length between 24 and 70mm is really helpful when trying to create content for social media. The microphone is also something else that I'm experimenting with right now. Recently, I've been shooting a bit of live sports coverage, and I see the hosts or presenters at those events, and I see them walking around with wireless microphones with a mic flag, and I thought, that looks all right. Maybe I'll give that a go with the social media content that I'm creating for my local church. I do find that it is helpful to look at other industries and creative outlets and see what works well for them and see if you can adopt that for whatever current project you are working on right now. It keeps things fresh, and it also opens your mind to different ways that you could do things. So I thought I'd borrow this idea from the sports world, and the main thing that I do need to watch out for is mic placement. So if whoever I'm filming is holding the microphone and it's in a bad place, or if they start thinking that they could start using the microphone as a pointer or a wand or whatever it is, I'm not going to be getting good audio. So I need to constantly be educating the different people that are in front of the camera to not hold the microphone here, but hold the microphone here, and be confident when they're talking, and to smile when they talk, and to not forget about the microphone, and then I end up not having any audio. So that's probably the biggest hurdle that I have with using this hand microphone. Otherwise, I've got the mic flag, which has the branding of the local church on it. And I also have this mic foam as well, which helps with plosives. So plosives are those hard puff sounds whenever someone uses a P word or something like that. And when the mic foam is not on, it can be quite distracting depending on the person that is talking into the microphone. Some people suffer worse with plosives than others, but I found that since purchasing this microphone, it's cut down on those plosives quite a bit and has really helped with the audio. And it also helps with being outside if there's any wind as well. So that is definitely something to consider if you're wanting to use a hand microphone for your social media content rig. With the hand microphone and receiver, I can also set up the output to be either plus or minus dB. And I find that with my A7RV, if I want to have the microphone having usable audio, I need to bump it up to about +6 or +9 dB. So that's a little bit of a heads up if you're wanting to use this system. Don't have it at 0 dB. Go into the settings and bump it up to either +6 or +9. Otherwise, you might find that the levels are a little bit low when you get into the editing process. I also shoot everything S-Log3 because I want that extra dynamic range. I have used in the past no picture profile, and I do find straight out of camera it does look quite good. I don't really need to do any color correcting. However, you do lose dynamic range. So if I'm filming with a window in the scene and it's a sunny day, then I find that the windows are blown out and it's not necessarily the kind of look that I'm wanting to go with. However, if I'm shooting in S-Log3, I have that extra dynamic range. The window might be blown out a little bit, but it's not as extreme as it is if I was doing no picture profile. So I really do like having that extra room in the editing suite to be able to color correct and bring back those overexposed parts in the footage. However, I don't really spend a lot of time color correcting my footage because a lot of the time I'm just using Cinematch, and that gets me the look that I want pretty quickly after just dragging and dropping the preset that I have set up in Premiere Pro. I also have Cinematch for Final Cut Pro, so it is nice to have that consistency across both NLEs. I also have a Tiffen Black ProMist 1/8 strength filter on the end of my lens. I typically have this filter on all of my lenses except for the one that's recording me right now. Right now I'm shooting on the Sony FX6 and I'm using the Sony 12mm to 24mm f4 lens, and unfortunately this lens has a front glass element that extrudes out a bit and doesn't allow me to screw on any filters. So if I wanted to use a ProMist filter on this lens, I'd need to get a matte box and have a different kind of setup to be able to do that, and unfortunately I don't have that right now. So this shot that you're seeing right now has no ProMist filter on it, but the majority of the footage that I shoot always has a black ProMist filter on it because I like the look that it gives. It cuts out that digital sharpness that Sony cameras are notorious for. Plus it also gives a little bit of a blooming effect to lights in the background, which I find really pleasing when I look at the footage. I'm also shooting to 2 SD cards as well. So I'm doing dual recording with my A7RV, and I am using the ProGrade 256GB V90 cards. I haven't had any problems with these, and normally when I'm looking at purchasing accessories for my Sony equipment, I'll go the Sony brand path, but I have seen lots of good reviews online for ProGrade, and from my personal experience, I haven't had any problems with them. So I can definitely recommend using those cards for your Sony cameras. V90 works quite well with this setup. I haven't felt that I need to use a CF Express Type A card. So I do suggest using the SD cards because they are more affordable than the CF Express Type A cards, and they also still do the job and transfer the files to my computer quite fast, and I don't find it to be too much of a bottleneck in my workflow. And I record to both cards at the same time just so I have that redundancy and that peace of mind when capturing the content. I'm also using the Sony battery grip as well, and I really do like this grip because it allows me to have 2 batteries in my A7RV, and it also makes my camera just a little bit bigger and easier to hold. I do know that one of the biggest criticisms that people have with Sony mirrorless cameras is without the battery grip, the cameras are quite small, and some people just want to have a bigger camera to be able to grab onto and use. And I do find that if you do add the battery grip, not only does it give you extra battery life, but it does make it easier for you to operate and hold. Having that extra battery life as well is really helpful with the A7RV. I do find that it does drain the battery a little bit quicker than my last camera that I used for social content, and that was the Sony a7 IV. And one thing that I really don't like doing on shoots is changing batteries constantly, and I've found that having this battery grip with 2 fully charged batteries does get me through typically a half day of shooting with the style that I do, and that means I'm not constantly needing to go change batteries and all that kind of stuff, which slows down the process and is just a little bit annoying to me. If I did run out of battery in this battery grip, I could then plug in a USB-C power bank as well to help power the rig. So if I do get in a pinch and I run out of battery with my battery grip, that is also an extra option, which I find to be quite helpful. And then when I find that 24 to 70mm isn't long enough, I have my Sony 70 to 200mm f2.8 GM version 2 lens, which I love to use, especially for event videography and content creation. It really does add an extra level of versatility to my rig, being able to get certain shots that I wouldn't really be able to get if I was using my 24 to 70mm lens. And that's my camera rig. As you can see, there are a few key things that you might see in other people's rigs that aren't present in this one. I don't have an external monitor. I don't have a V-mount solution. I'm trying to keep this rig as lean as possible so I can have it be as easy to use, but also light enough to be able to move around with it and not get too much arm fatigue. Who knows, maybe in the future I will add an extra monitor and I might add a V-mount battery solution. But right now I do like the form factor that this rig gives me and does help me get the shots that I need for my social media content. And that's the video. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to this channel for more videos on content creation in the future.